Hey friends, it's Nicole. As usual, we are not starting yet. Just wanted to come on and say hello. I know that there's a number of you guys have already jumped on early. So today I've built in a little extra time for some coaching, like do some live coaching. So if you want to pop in a question throughout the presentation or even before we get started, I'd love to go ahead and tackle that along the way. We'll work it in. And then also, while we're waiting, just go ahead and drop in a note in the questions box where we normally interact. It'll just come to me, but let me know if there's anything that you specifically want to chat about, any questions you want to go through, specific situation you're dealing with, and we'll see if we can work it in along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off for a little bit, but I am here, and then just drop that in when you can, and we'll get started right at noon like normal. Thanks. All right. Hello, everybody. We've got just about a minute left before we get started. So if you get a chance to drop in one of those notes, on kind of if you have any questions specifically that you want to talk through today, that would be awesome, or just want to say hi. Hello, my friend Susie, good to see you, or not see you. I can't see any of you guys, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, what I want to do today, we're going to do it a little differently than how I normally do it, which is very just kind of hold it until the end, kind of deal with them then. Today we're going to be peppering them throughout. I'm also going to have a couple of opportunities and times when I ask you for a little bit of input, want to hear from you, and maybe share some practices kind of across the group of folks that are gathered here today, kind of do a little bit of experiential learning from everyone else. So, all right, with that, it is almost noon on the official Verizon time clock that governs my life every day. So let's go ahead and get started. It just clicked over on the top of the hour. Hey, Jen, hi, thanks, so good to see everybody here. So today we're going to be doing the third part of my summer webinar series. I'm sorry, second part of a three-part. Today is finding a foothold, So we're going to still kind of stay on this topic of navigating uncertainty. How do we manage when times are uncertain, but really focusing on how do we kind of find a little bit of solid ground, even if it's like a teeny tiny patch that like one toe can fit on. How do we get a little bit of a foothold so that we make sure that we have something solid to step on to the next thing from there. As always, this is done in partnership with the League of Women in Government. It's an amazing organization. They have really excellent resources specifically for women who are working in local government, but even people who work outside of that industry. Some really fantastic information and things that you could take advantage of. So I encourage you to check them out. Today we're going to do a little bit of interaction. So you'll see a couple places where I'm going to ask you to type in some stuff through the question box. We'll go that way, and then content and Q&A, which is kind of the typical approach that we take. So to start off, in the questions box, just drop me one or two words how you're feeling today. So it might be different than yesterday. It might even be different than how you felt this morning, but just give me one or two words. I like to get a kind of a sense of where people are at when they hop onto webinars like this, especially when they're short duration. So we kind of steer the conversation and give you some specifics that way. All right. Overwhelmed and scattered, deflated but still excited, in control, overwhelmed, tired. I hear that. I think that's kind of a tired, not just like, ooh, I didn't get enough sleep last night, but it's kind of beyond that, just sort of tired overall. Defeated, stressed, both. Okay, so it's both tired physically and also just tired, kind of worn down, worn out. All right. Yeah. Nervous, anxious, overwhelmed. Okay. Lot of overwhelm. We've got some that are feeling in control, but kind of a little bit of a heavy feel to the group today, which really kind of given everything that's going on in our lives, the amount of, uncertainty that's out there, not really surprising on that one. But again, part of how you navigate uncertainty, and certainly how you find a foothold, has to start with that self-awareness. How am I doing inside? What's my starting point? That's a really powerful question to ask, so that you know kind of, okay, I need to do some work here to get into a better emotional state before I move into what's next, or you know what, I'm ready just to rock and roll. All right, so I'm going to introduce you to Murray. If you don't know Murray, Murray is a character on Sesame Street. Yes, I have a 2-year-old. You can totally tell because this is what came to mind when I was prepping for this. And Murray is responsible for a segment on Sesame Street called Word on the Street. And it's a time when they introduce a new vocab word. And so the word that Murray is going to share with you today is the word liminal. liminal. It's kind of fun to say, it sort of rolls off your tongue. But liminal is a really important word right now to kind of capture the state of where we're at, sort of as a group as a whole, but also really as individuals. There's a lot of people on furlough, layoffs are occurring, economic uncertainty is rampant. Do we open schools? Do we not open schools? And so the reason the word liminal is important, because I want to give you a framework to think about the time that you might be in, especially when there's so much uncertainty. So liminal is relating to a transitional or initial stage of a process. So you're transitioning, or you're kind of like just at the cusp of beginning a process. It also means occupying a position at or on both sides of a boundary or a threshold. So kind of like straddling, where you got kind of one foot in the old, one foot in the new, and you're sort of teetering back and forth, not really sure exactly where you're at. It's also the time between what was and what's next. And I love that as an idea of, we're in this sort of, you might be in this sort of lull period or rest period, which may not feel very restful. And there's a lot of you that are like, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious, I'm stressed out. But it's sort of a pause in between what was and what's next. And we may not always know what's coming, but we do know where we're coming from. And we know that there have been things that we have done in the past that can help us succeed in the future. And so as you're kind of navigating through this time, then keep this in mind, that you're in a liminal space. And so if you're feeling tired and feeling like you can't recover, somebody mentioned that, or I can't quite get it, my energy level's all the way back up, it's okay to be in a liminal space, or even to feel like kind of a liminal space. Doesn't mean you have to stay there forever, but it's okay to acknowledge where it is. So that is why I chose the topic of finding a foothold. And I want to talk about this in really 3 areas that we're going to go through today. And this idea that when we are in a liminal space, we're kind of getting ready for a transition, or we might be actively in transition between what was and what's coming. You want to have a solid footing somewhere to do that. And so I'm going to give you a couple of micro strategy practices today to help you have that foothold. Now the 3 kind of areas or bins I want to talk about finding a foothold in. Number 1, practices for finding a foothold. Number 2, places, so places that can help you find that foothold. And then number 3, people. How can people sort of help you do that when you need that as a strategy? So step number 1, I want to talk about proprioceptive self-input. And I am like 85% sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Proprioceptive self-input. And yes, you're allowed to do this at work. You can do it in public. It's completely okay. Here's what this is. Proprioceptive self-input is input that is received from our muscles and our joints that tells us where we're at in space. So it's input that really helps us from like not bumping into things, we don't walk into walls, really gives us that kind of solid sense of perception of space around us. It also stimulates our central nervous system. That's why that's powerful as a technique for finding a foothold. It's something that's often used in occupational therapy. If you have someone in your circle, or if you yourself are on the autism spectrum, proprioceptive input is generally a tactic that's used in occupational therapy or sensory processing disorder therapy to help kind of calm that central nervous system. So it's a kind of an adapted tool from that body of work. It's pretty simple, and the strategy is just this. When you are looking for that foothold, meaning things are kind of swirling around you, you're uncertain, you're not sure what's going on, you're trying to calm down so you can get back into that state for like optimal cognition and decision making, simply take your hands in front of your chest, get your elbows out to the side, press your palms together, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, but just really push and focus on that pressure in between the two. And then release. And what that's going to do is actually the physical pressure that you're creating on the joints in your hands there is going to send that positive proprioceptive self-input to your body, which is going to calm your central nervous system. So it's just a really quick, cost-free, easy way to kind of give you a little space of, oh, I can exhale. Now I have a starting point for moving forward. So just a real quick kind of easy tip. There's lots of other ways that you can use that. That's just one that's really simple and easy to start incorporating. Second tactic when we look at practices, right? So this state of uncertainty, or when we need to find a foothold, when all of a sudden we feel like the ground is shifted or fallen away completely, we want to have tools and tactics that we've had ahead of time and are already in our arsenal, so that when those situations happen, we have something ready for that response. The idea, build your ritual, is kind of prepping that ahead of time. So when you need it, when that happens, let's go ahead and have that kind of in the toolbox of tools that you can pull out when you need that foothold. So couple of ideas for this. When I say build a ritual, I do not mean an elaborate ordeal that involves lighting candles and setting off fireworks and marching elephants or whatever it is that you happen to be into. I mean something short and sweet that provides you a firm place to stand, even if everything else is kind of chaotic around you. So something quick, something you can do anywhere, so it doesn't involve best if it doesn't involve any actual object, so that if you're in the bathroom in 3 minutes between meetings, you could do it really quickly to kind of reset yourself and give you that foundational step that you need. So keep it short and sweet. So it should be something quick. Make sure you can do it anywhere. So whether you're in a meeting, you're in your office, you're at home, you're in the car, you're with your kids at the out back or at the playground if they're open where you are. But just come up with some little ritual that gives you a firm place to stand. And so I say, one, use a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 steps in it. And that could be just 5 deep breaths, 4 repetitions of a mantra, 3 presses of that proprioceptive input, 2 positive messages that you send to your friends, and 1 recognition of something that you're grateful for. So just count down. You can go from 3, 2, 1 if you want to keep it quicker, but it's just something that you can do in your head that signals to yourself, okay, you know what? I have a firm place to stand. The use of mantra might be really powerful for you there too. Also use your senses, that sensory sort of practice, where as a ritual you look around and you say, okay, using my 5 senses, so again back to 5, using my 5 senses, what are 5 things I can see around me? Okay, and you just notice it. What are 4 things I can hear around me? What are 3 things I can taste nearby? And you sip of water, take a swig of tea, eat a piece of gum, whatever it is. What are 2 things I can touch? What's 1 thing I can hear? And you just work through your 5 senses and you try and notice 1 thing for each of them, or go the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, however you want to do it. But it's a ritual to yourself that when you need a foothold, like, holy cow, I'm spinning out of control, I can't get it together. This is a practice that I have. This is a sense, a little sense of normalcy that would help with that. I've mentioned box breathing before a number of times, that 4 by 4 by 4 by 4 breathing. Some people call it 4 square breathing. It's just inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, pause 4 before your next breath. Could be your actual ritual, or it could be part of a ritual, but it's also really good when you combine that with that proprioceptive input as well. All right, and remember, if you have questions along the way, drop those in there. Last thing in terms of practices is this idea of stacking your habits, or habit stacking, and it's a pretty simple concept. It's really just using 1 habit to leverage another. So for example, you're brushing your teeth every morning. This is something that I'm working on right now. And there's something else that you want to work on. Maybe you want to say, I want to have a really solid foothold to start my day every day, meaning I have a firm starting place that says I'm in a good place to handle whatever's thrown at me today. And so you stack that habit with brushing your teeth. This is one I'm actively working on right now. I have a bad habit of scrolling Facebook first thing in the morning, which is a horrible way to start my day, just so you know, and I'm totally cutting that out. But when I brush my teeth, as I'm getting ready, I would just kind of flip through it while I was brushing. Well, I guess I brush with this hand and scroll with this one. I'm working on my left hand thumb scroll. And what I found was I would take longer to brush my teeth. kind of wasn't really paying attention, wasn't always great news that I was looking at. And so instead what I'm doing is I'm now using my toothbrushing time, which I do every day, twice a day, or mostly every day, twice a day, every day at least once a day, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm stacking the habit of using positive affirmations while I'm brushing my teeth. So while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm saying things like, I am capable of achieving everything that needs to get done today. I am appreciated, I am confident, whatever it is for you that you're kind of working on. So stacking that habit together. I've seen some people that are making coffee and they're working on they make the coffee and then they do 10 push-ups before they leave the kitchen. Other people do like a light workout or light exercise and stretching the entire time the pot of coffee is brewing. So again, that habit that you already have, just attach something else to this. There was a book I read once that suggested, I think it was called Smart Cuts was the name of the book, and it suggested buying a book that you're really excited about, but only allowing yourself to listen to it or read it while you're exercising. So obviously safety precautions need to be taken, but similar idea of habit stacking. If you always go to the gym and you run on the treadmill, if you're allowed to go to the gym right now, do something like that where you're stacking on this other habit. That's one of those things that it's such an easy little tactic. But when we talk about finding a foothold, it's not about having a massive platform to like lay down on and relax on top of. It's really just about finding one little place where you can kind of set your feet and plant from that and then move into whatever you have to tackle next. So I'd love to hear from you if you have practices that you use to find a foothold. I'd love to share a couple of those with other people, either how you calm down and find that foothold when it's you're actively feeling kind of crazy or kind of nervous and scattered, or how you do it to sort of make sure you keep that level, that even keel or that foothold and kind of stay on track with that. Awesome. Okay. Brain dumping, yes. One of my favorite people to work with is Jen Lawrence. She's a productivity coach. If you have any questions about your productivity, she will change your life in like one session. She's amazing. But Jen is famous for brain dumping, which is literally just getting everything that's on your mind out onto a piece of paper so you're not taking up space anymore. That kind of gives you that reset or that foothold. Somebody else shared deep breathing, and I shake my hands. Awesome, like physical cue to yourself that like, okay, now I can move forward from here. I use box breathing often. Brain dumping is we got some fellow brain dumping fans. Go for a walk, clears the mind, allows you to think, calms emotions. Yes. So yeah, it's even just like a little short walk can do that for you. Meditation using the Calm app, it's amazing. Yes, I love Calm. I love Insight Timer. There's a couple of really awesome ones. And that's the cool thing about meditations, where you can do free meditation, but you can also do guided meditations that kind of help you have something to focus on. That's a really good way to do that. Somebody else said I meditate during lunch when I need it, maybe just a 3 to 5 minute sesh. So that might be all you need. Again, these like quick rituals that reset you into that place. Mindfulness breathing and making lists, so I'm not scrambling, wondering what I'm forgetting. Yes. Okay, one song dance party. How awesome is that? How different would that be if you just say, okay, you know, it's a little crazy out here, you know, things are spinning, I've got a chaotic day ahead. I'm gonna have a one song dance party and then get back to it. I love that. I'm totally gonna do that this afternoon. That's amazing. And I simply raise my arms over my head. Yeah, so even just changing our physical position, if you can't change your physical space, but even changing just your physical position can be enough to put you into the space where you go, okay, now I'm ready for the next thing. Now I've kind of found that foothold. Thank you so much for the ideas. I love those. All right, so the second one I mentioned was finding a foothold in terms of place. So in this idea of claiming your place. Now, when I say this, I'd love for you to have some sort of frequently accessible actual physical space that you can retreat to or reset. Even if it's your own bathroom with the door closed for 3 minutes, have some regular space that you can go to. Now, in my home, it's pretty small. I don't have any solo space that I can claim. So I went on Amazon and I ordered myself a meditation pillow with a really cool slip cover on it that I like, and it's basically just like a chair pillow. And that becomes my retreat space. So I have to put it away during the day so I have room for everything else. But when it's my time to reset and I need that foothold, or I'm ready to meditate or journal or just need a couple minutes to breathe, I pull that out, and it's sort of like my own personal space, but it happens to be portable with me, and it happens to be something I can put away so that we can still use all of the shared space in the house. So if you can have your own room, that's amazing. If not, find something else. Now, the other idea about making it portable, and that's what this little image is for, this is a college care kit that I found online, but I love this idea of having like a go bag with you that you have, and maybe it's the size of like a sandwich bag, a makeup bag if you wear makeup, whatever. But you just put some stuff in there that gives you that little bit of a foothold resting place, and then you can take it with you to work. So maybe it's like a couple pieces of really good dark chocolate. You know, the tea bag I thought was a great idea. Some scented lotion if you're into scented lotion that gives you kind of a stress relief. I really like essential oils, so maybe like a lavender essential oil, something like that. A photo, I've seen ones where people have photos in them or affirmation cards, and they go through and pull an affirmation card, and it's just something that you can constantly have with you. That can be a little bit of a space to find a foothold before you move on to that next thing. Now, the bonus point, the one there in italics down at the bottom of the screen, if you can find somewhere to go when you need a bigger break, you know, probably alone, or you really need to like exhale and find your footing, see if there's a place outside your home that's safe to go to right now. Obviously, we're living in COVID times, but that's a safe place for you to go to. I'll tell you, I live in Arizona. I live in the desert, I live in the hot part of the desert. It's been like 110, 112, 115 here in the last couple of weeks. But there is a place in northeastern Arizona in the White Mountains that is my absolute favorite place in the world, and it could be a day trip if I really wanted to drive a lot, but it's a place that I know I can go when I'm really struggling, and just the physical location is enough to kind of bring me down. So look for places like that to, again, kind of just have in your back pocket ready to go when you need them. All right, so last kind of area when we talk about finding a foothold is I want you to partner with your people. Now, if you've heard the term "you're my person," or you know, she's my person, he's my person, meaning like they're the person that I need for this. Find your person, and what I say is it might actually be people, because you might have a person for one area of your life or at work or in your professional industry, and you might need to have a different person somewhere else. If you have kind of lost that connection with people, and a lot of folks have, especially since the pandemic set in and we went to a lot of virtual or remote working environments, please reactivate some of those connections. It doesn't mean you have to do something with them every day and get like matching lower back tattoos, but it just means that you have someone or some people kind of in your bank that you can go to and connect with when you need it. Microbursts work. My friends and I have adopted this because what we've found is our schedules with kids at home, working from home, juggling with partners who are also working from home or are still going into work, it's really hard to get like 2 hours for a gab fest. So what we're doing is just quick microbursts, text messages, video calls, emails back and forth. We've started emailing each other again, which is kind of a random thing, but sort of nice. Or leaving voicemails for each other. So we've adopted like a no harm, no foul policy if the other person calls and you don't answer, but we'll leave each other funny voicemails back and forth. And I normally hate checking my voicemail, but this has kind of made me look forward to it again. So think in microbursts rather than what we used to do is we'd go to lunch, or we'd, you know, meet up for happy hour or a walk in the park. So think shorter. Create a code word or phrase. I love, love, love this as a tactic within your close circle, whoever that is, if it's family, if it's friends, even in your coworkers, but have some code word or phrase that when you say it, that other person is like, ooh, yep, I'm gonna clue in. I know they need something. They could be something silly, you know, like kumquat. You just text that to your friend and you're like, kumquat, having a kumquat moment. And they're gonna know like, ooh, I need to lean in a little bit and check in on Nicole, see how she's doing. So it's also kind of a way to give you a little bit of a levity into that, while still signaling to the other person that you need some help kind of finding that foothold and getting them in on that. And then establish a routine. If you can, as you partner with people, even if it's with coworkers, try and find some routine that allows for that personal connectivity and check-in so that you can connect sort of as human beings too before you get right to work. And certainly with your friends, if it's one of you texts in the morning, one of you texts at night, you call each other every Sunday for, you know, a cup of coffee over Zoom, what have you, but find some sort of routine, because that's the type of foothold that if you know it's coming, like, okay, I'm going to talk to Jamie tomorrow morning. All right, I can make it till then. That's something to look forward to. That kind of builds in some of those personal support footholds for you as you go throughout your week. So next question, what can you do to create a place or connect with people to help you find your foothold? So I'd love to hear from you some of your tactics and your tips, what you're doing to kind of create some of that, and again, kind of get some of that sharing. And then after this, we're gonna go kind of into joint or just open Q&A. We got about 5 minutes left, so I wanna make sure we have enough time for that. I've got a couple questions that have come in already. So yeah, while we're kind of gearing up for that, what can you do to either create a place or connect with people that can help you find that foothold? Okay, somebody said we schedule time to chat. Yeah, that calendar is so powerful. And then it becomes something you're not going to give up because it's already on the calendar and you don't have that time blocked off for anything else. Teams chat, I Spy pictures. All right, so kind of a fun way to connect with people. Someone else said, I have a very small candle that I take with me, and when I need to reset or find a foothold, I just turn the candle on. I'm assuming it's an electric candle and not like something that could melt in your car or you'd have to like light a fire at work to start up. Yep. Someone else said they use the essential oils too, since it's easy just to keep with them and go that way. Somebody has a special hand lotion that they use to kind of give themselves that sort of reminder of a physical space. Someone takes their journal with them everywhere, just a small journal, and they'll jot down some notes in that, and that kind of helps them connect that space. And somebody else said, I use Marco Polo to send video messages back and forth. Yes. That's definitely, my friends and I use that one too. I send packages in the mail to my friends full of baked goods. I need to be better friends with you. That's amazing. Or I need better friends. If any of my friends are listening, that's a message to you. Just kidding. Yeah, so all these ways, like one of the things I started doing since the pandemic was trying to up my creativity, because I was feeling kind of like, oh, everything's dark. And so I started taking kids art classes online, like little art lessons. And I'm drawing on the front of little note cards that I'm sending out to friends. So it's kind of a twofold activity, helps me stay connected, but also provides that kind of space. Yeah, and somebody else said snail mail. Yeah, definitely a great idea. Those are awesome. Taking a drive, even, yeah, just to that. So keep those coming in. I'll read them out as they come through. I do have a couple questions that came in that I want to make sure I tackle briefly. Thanks for the tips. I feel like I tend to make good progress, feel like I'm on track and staying on track, and then it seems like in the course of a single day or even just a morning, I'm totally thrown off course and I have to start all over. Is there anything I can do to avoid this? Before we get to avoiding, just want to tell you that's totally normal and it's okay. And please don't judge yourself if you're like, I'm doing great, I'm Wonder Woman, I'm doing fine. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm anything but Wonder Woman. Totally normal, and that's okay. Just reset it. Use one of these tips or tricks, build one of your own, and just reset it from there. Because the trick when you get into that situation, when you say, I'm totally thrown off course and have to start all over, is realize you're not as far off course as you're afraid that you are. So hop back onto course quickly. So don't get swept away in that emotion, kind of acknowledge it, and then say, all right, I'm going to step back into how I was feeling before this thing happened, or how I'd like to feel for the rest of the day. So I don't know that you can totally avoid it, other than kind of watching out for those things and being prepped ahead of time and sort of having your arsenal of responses ready. But just because you can't avoid it doesn't mean you have to totally succumb to it. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Nicole, I'm pretty good with most of this at home, but when I get into work, it's like a totally different me emerges and I struggle to stay on an even keel. I'm always super nervous about what my boss thinks. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. How can I find a foothold at work and quit being so neurotic? So one, please reframe. You're not neurotic. You're concerned about producing a good product. You're concerned about having a good professional reputation. Just sounds like you might be taking it a little far, and that fear is kind of nibbling in at you. So in terms of finding a foothold, affirmations are going to be really important for you. Number one, to kind of reset your mind into that right framework. And number two, look back and do an inventory of past success. So it's a little bit of like kind of also how we deal with imposter syndrome, but look back and say, here's how many times I've done this right. Here's how many other situations I had a project that I've never managed before, and I've done it well. Here are all these awesome relationships I have for support if I need them. So kind of counterbalance your fear or the sort of imagining, I'm nervous about what my boss thinks. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. That's all in the future. None of that has actually happened yet. So counterbalance the what if with the what is, or the what has been. The what if with the what is or the what has been, and that can kind of reset you and give you a little bit of a foothold there at work. Okay, so we're already at the end of time. Our third session is coming up in August. I can't believe it's almost August. And what I'm going to be tackling then is charting the path forward. So as we're moving out of uncertainty, or if we're still going to be living in uncertainty, how do we chart a path forward that's really going to set us up for success and keep us moving forward? So it's going to be really some tactical tips there. Bring a piece of paper or an electronic document that you can work on. I'm going to give you some kind of strategies that you can work in to really figure out how you can move forward, either coming out of an uncertain period or even when you're still in one, no matter what. So as always, thank you to the League of Women in Government for your partnership and hosting this. And it was so great. So please connect with me if we're not already connected on social media. I love to connect with people. Tell me how you're finding a foothold, how that's going for you. And if there's absolutely any way I can support you, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to chat with you and find something that works. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do. Be well.